You're listening to the Womanpreneur podcast. Empowerment in business and life.
Well, welcome back to another exciting adventure with us on the Womanpreneur podcast. My name is Melissa Moats, and I am hanging out with my super cool friend. Look at me switching it up.
Super cool. I'm not lovely and talented today.
You are usually lovely and talented. Today you're super cool and
super
fun, and we share weirdness together.
That we definitely do.
Amanda McEwen.
Hello.
Greetings.
Greetings and salutations. Yes, Another 80s reference just for the Heathers fans out there.
I love it. I love it.
So I'm going to jump right into it.
Go. I'm so excited.
We are talking about releasing judgment and being open-minded. And I think we have to start with something that happened this week that was a bit of a controversy. Okay. Had a lot of passionate people on both sides of this thing that happened. You came out this week as a person who doesn't like avocados. And I have never seen so much commentary on a social media post as the people that either sided with you and said, I've never been able to talk to this. I don't like avocados either. Or the people like me that were slightly offended. And how could you not like such deliciousness?
It was a really big step for me to put it out there.
It's very brave.
I felt brave. As I was typing it, I feel like I broke a little sweat, above my brow. I was like, okay, here it comes. I wrote, I strongly dislike avocados. And then I said, am I the only one? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people said yes.
Yes. There were people, I think, that were threatening to disown you.
Yes.
And honestly, that was my first thought. It's how can we be friends anymore other than the fact that you and I are complete opposites in everything already?
So it made sense.
It wasn't very surprising. But I kept checking in throughout the week because there was so much activity.
I think in one day there were like 82 comments on that one thread. It was
people feel very strongly for or against avocados.
I couldn't believe it. It was incredible. And I will say, I knew that there was the opportunity for me to possibly lose some friends over it, but it seems like my bonds, they run deep, and people came through for me. They were like, hey, Melissa, this really does make me take a step back and reevaluate a few things, but I think we'll still be able to be friends. And I was like,
I know.
It's a good thing.
I imagine that after you clicked publish or whatever button, you kind of sat back and what did I do?
Yeah.
But it was very brave.
Thank you. Know? Well, that was me being true to myself. And I needed to just let people know why I always stay on the side of the table where the salsa is. I'm never on the guac.
No guacamole near you.
I'm not on the guac side ever. And I'm always like, people are always like, oh yeah, the guac's great. And you know what I always say? I'm sure it is.
Uh-huh. But it works because then when you're opposites, like you and I will happily sit on the guac side and take it away from you. I could eat avocado. I pretty much do eat avocado every day. So anyhow, the whole episode is not about avocados, but it was just funny because we were saying, okay, the topic this week is going to be about releasing judgment. And that was just one of those things to where so much in life is subjective. Yeah. So there is no right or wrong at all. You hate avocados?
I don't hate.
Okay,
I strongly dislike
avocados.
Hate is too strong of a word.
I love avocados. I'm not right or wrong.
Yes.
You're not right or wrong.
Right.
It's just what is.
I appreciate the fact that they're a superfood. I appreciate the color of green they are. I just don't want to eat them. They're slimy and they're weird, and I don't even like the way they smell.
Do they really have a smell?
They do.
Okay. Well,
check it out next time.
Anyhow.
But anyway, I can sit back and be in awe of the perfectness of what an avocado is. It's just not palatable for me.
And that is completely okay.
Thank you.
And it's not my place to judge you for whether you like a fruit or dislike a fruit. And it's kind of weird that an avocado is a fruit to begin with. So that's a whole other, it doesn't really feel like it belongs in that family.
It could be an episode just within itself.
Right.
So,
but it's kind of the point is that as humans, we're very quick to put our own feelings and attachments and beliefs and expect everybody else to feel or believe the same thing. And that's what gets people in trouble, whether it's in life, whether it's business, relationships, all of that. It's more, I feel this way, so I just assume that everybody else feels this way.
Right.
And when they don't, we're very quick to assign a negative attachment to that. Like, oh, well, that's why people like to debate a lot. And, it gets that idea that somebody wants to be right when there's an issue that you can't be right or wrong. It's what you like, what you don't like. It's completely subjective.
And that's what makes the world so interesting and life so interesting is variety is the spice of life. And if we all like the same thing or we all saw things the same way, I don't know, it'd be pretty underwhelming.
It'd be very underwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I was thinking about the word judgment and judgmental when you mentioned that as a possible topic to talk about. And I mean, I think using your judgment, there are positive ways to look at that word, and then there's the negative connotation as well. But I mean, you want to use your judgment in life as far as you're using your judgment can save your life.
Right.
I mean, you have judgment there to let you know you're safe, let you know you're okay, that things are good, and to let you know things are not so good or about to become not so good. So, I mean, your judgment has a really important part in your life. It plays a really important role in your decision making. But I think when you're referring to judgment in this capacity, it's more on the just preferences, the likes, the dislikes. And the other way you can look at judgment is, your decision making ability for yourself, So I think that there's some fun topics, there's some fun conversations to be had about both,
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think for me personally, I try my best to be non-judgmental and be very open-minded and accepting of other people because, I've met so many people over the course of my life who've impacted me and shaped, I think, my belief system and who I am in such a profound way. And I'm so thankful for all of the different ideas and, just angles and ways of looking at things. So sometimes when someone says something as shocking as they don't like avocados, step back a second before you have a reaction to it and really take it in.
Right.
Let it set with you for a moment.
And I think most of us, we do have, there's a term for it. We have snap judgments.
Yeah.
It's that instant, that first thought. But the important thing for me is I always want to know why. Where is this person coming from?
Yeah.
And because maybe that can expand my own belief, or maybe it just firms up what my belief already is. But I like to, and it's automatically I give people the benefit of the doubt. Where I've seen a lot, and maybe it's just recently, I don't know, but it feels like people jump to the negative conclusion right away.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand that. I mean, I have a curiosity, and I won't debate a topic, unless I feel that I'm educated, and I have a lot of details. I don't want to force my opinion on anybody else.
Yeah,
but I do want to know why you feel so strongly about something. And the two topics that, people love to debate, it's always politics and religion.
Right.
I won't get into any of that. And sometimes that's all people want you to engage in an argument. And I want to know why you feel differently from me. I don't want to change your mind.
Right.
But I want to, it's that having an open conversation, help me understand where you're coming from, and then just listen to what I have to say and maybe we can meet in the middle somewhere.
Right. Well, I think sometimes it's people want the same outcome. They just have different ideas of how to get there. I mean, that seems to be the case that I've seen a lot in, political debates and conversations is, everyone has a different idea of the quote unquote right way to do things. And, for me, I'm not well researched. I'm not a person that has a lot of opinions and data and stuff to debate. You will not get a debate out of me whatsoever on those topics. But if you want to talk to me about different shades of pink, I'm in.
Nobody wants to talk to you about different shades of pink.
Can I just mention, I just want to say one thing that speaking of judgmental and judgment, I want to say that in my opinion, I have found the absolute perfect shirt of all time. The one that I'm wearing right now is hands down my favorite shirt of all time. And I'd like to tell you the qualities that make up my shirt and why it's so great.
Please tell me about the
Number one,
loveliness.
it's yellow. Number two, it has pops of a very fun, hot pinky kind of, I don't even know, it's almost like a coral. And it's got little pops of sequins on these little flowers. And I mean, the fact that it cinches at the waist, it plays to one of my strengths, one of my parts of my body I like, okay? It has a really nice neckline. And I mean, it's got all of the attributes that I want in a perfect shirt. And it's soft.
There you go.
And it's machine washable, air dry only. I'm just saying, this, my friends, it's a perfect shirt.
And that's a perfect example of how different people have different ideas of what is perfect and what is not. That, I agree, that is a perfect shirt for you.
Thank you.
You wouldn't even get me to try that shirt on. I can tell you of all the reasons why I can't wear yellow. I don't want neon pink or sequins or,
Or both of them together.
Yeah, like it's
on a flower. That's what they are.
None of that is perfection for me. And that is perfectly okay.
It is.
And that, it's a big part of that. It's, understanding that we don't all want the same things.
Right.
So what is perfection to me, or what is success to me, or, what constitutes a good day or fun or any of that, it might not be the same as you. So then when we've talked about the comparison trap and not worrying so much about what other people are doing, we're all chasing different things. Some people want money or things. Some people want experiences. Some people want time with friends and family. Like, there's so many different things. And it's very easy to judge others. And this happens to me all the time. I've talked about it. I don't want kids. I've never wanted kids. I get judged very harshly from that. People are coming around. It's changed a lot in recent years, and more people are not wanting kids. There was just a debate in my Pilates class this week that, because one of the instructors was trying to figure out, her question was how, like when you have a kid, you automatically have to become selfless. And she said, so for me, who doesn't want kids, how do I become selfless without having a kid? And that's how all of this started. But, and it got me to thinking, I have a friend that I've known since high school, and she has a ton of kids. And she always judges me in that, even though her life is very fulfilled with her family. It's what she wanted. It's what she's happy with. She doesn't she doesn't get to travel or go do a lot of things, but she has that family. And I think that's great. But she looks at me, and she's actually used the word pity before, because obviously my life must not be fulfilled because I don't have kids. And that just makes me laugh, because I get to travel the world, and I get to, I have this freedom from not having kids that allows me to do the things that are important to me. And I think both of our lives can be equally as successful. There's not one is better than the other. It's just what's right for her is not what's right for me, and vice versa.
Absolutely. And it's knowing what's right for you and embracing what's right for you. Mm-hmm. I know, like my brothers and sisters, there's 5 of us, and I think, am I the only one that doesn't have kids? Never stop to think about it. Hold, please. Yeah. So I have my beautiful stepdaughter, Abby, but it's one of those things where I chose to not have children also. And for me, a lot of it had to do with my health and medical things. The 2 bouts with cancer definitely impacted that for me. But I feel like I get to be maternal in so many other ways. I know being maternal is a really big part of me. And I always say my 100 voiceover students or whatever, I have 100 babies or whatever. I think it's more than that now, but
they do call you Mama VO.
They do call me Mama VO. So I definitely get to, flex that muscle of being a mama, if you would, in a different kind of way. But we all have different dreams and different things that fulfill us and make us feel good. And it is interesting that some people assume that if you don't have the same thing they have, that you're somehow missing out,
Right.
or you're somehow super unhappy, or you have a huge void in your life,
Oh, yeah.
because that just demonstrates how huge that thing that they're talking about is to them.
Right.
So,
And I've told you on this before, we've talked about it. People get very upset that I don't drink.
yeah.
And so that automatically makes me boring, or, I need to loosen up and have fun. I don't dance either. I'm just not, I like to watch other people. It's fine, but it's not a thing that I do. But because it's such a big part of most people love to go out and have drinks, and I can go hang out with them and drink my water and have just as much fun and then feel great the next day.
Yes.
And that works for me. But
I'm the same way.
sometimes, especially when I was younger, it really bothered people. And it's like, well, why aren't you drinking? It's like, I don't want to. It's that simple. But I always felt that I had to justify it somehow because I'm not in the norm here. So obviously, I have to explain why I don't want to join in. And now I don't care.
I know. Well, when I was the same way too when I was younger, I always felt like almost like I needed to apologize or whatever that I wasn't I've never been a big drinker. I'll have my like 1 or 2 margaritas a year, and I'm like,
or the eggnog at the holiday party. You really liked that eggnog.
Eggnog brings out a special part of me, and it was a lot of fun. And it doesn't take much eggnog because I don't drink very often. It's like I'm a total lightweight. But I do enjoy an occasional social drink, but for me, it's like I don't like the way I feel the very next day. I actually think I have an allergy to like the preservatives and stuff in alcohol, because it does make me feel really sick and bad even right after I've had it. So for me, it's not worth it. The way I'm going to feel is not worth it. And so it's rare that I decide to partake. And I do really love red wine. And I do like to drink some red wine with my dad when I'm back home in Illinois. That's something we share together. But there are times I drink 1 glass, and I mean, it makes me so sick because of the tannins or the preservatives in it. And other times I can have 1 or 2 glasses, and I'm like, whoopee, what kind of wine is this, Dad? This is amazing. So I have to like make a little note to myself, the ones I can drink. But it's one of those things. Be true to yourself. If you're not into drinking, you're not into, whatever. I used to feel weird about saying, oh no, I'm not really drinking. I don't drink. And people are, why are you pregnant?
Right.
Did you used to have a problem with it? Those
it's
are
always
the two.
one of the two.
Right?
Always.
No,
there can't be any other reason why.
It's so funny. Again, another judgment that a lot of people want to assume. And it's just that you're not into it, and I'm used to taking care of everybody. I'm always the DD. I know you are too.
But that's what I'm so glad that things like Uber and Lyft exist now. I know. Because I don't have to, I got to a point where I stopped being that because I didn't want to stay out until 2 or 3 a.m. and drive people home. Now, and I always did it because I wanted to make sure people were safe. Yeah. And now it's so easy to be safe. You just get a ride and it's fine. So I've opted out. Plus, I'm old, so, I'm usually asleep by the time people are just going out to start the night. So, they know better now than to include me in that. But really, my point is always that it's the assigning negative traits to people who are different. That's the part that really drives me crazy. And I know that my brain works differently than a lot. I'm not very emotional. I always have the more logical, analytical approach to things. And that has been a big strength for me. But it's really hard when dealing with people who are emotional, because my commentary sometimes might come across as cold or heartless or, all of those things, which I always hope that people give me the benefit of the doubt. Right. And instead of saying, well, you're reacting differently than I would, so you're obviously insert negative trait here. Right. And I appreciate when people think, okay, well, she's coming from a different point of view. Maybe, I could learn something from that or gain a different perspective. That's what I always try to offer. It's different perspective. Because a lot of times when you're in the midst of something, especially like a deep, heavy situation, like even when you were having your surgery and it was like a week after I started working with the studio, and then you were going to be out of commission. Everybody else was sending you flowers and doing all the things, and I think those are great gestures. I knew you didn't need any more flowers. You needed somebody that was going to make sure that your business was running.
Right.
That was my way of contributing. That was my flowers.
Absolutely.
You know? And it doesn't mean that I didn't care or that I wasn't
yeah.
thoughtful and think, oh, I better send her. It was more, you're getting all of this from everyone else. Let me do the thing that's different.
Right. Well, I think sometimes, like to kind of speak to that, people oftentimes in that situation, they think, well, what am I, quote unquote, supposed to do? So they'll do the thing that they've always known is the right thing to do, or what maybe the way they were raised, or I know my family, they're huge on, they love to send flowers. They send flowers for all kinds of things. And I love to receive them. I really do. But your flowers that you shared with me were very much needed and appreciated. They smelled great. They lasted a lot longer.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even have to change the water.
And they never die.
Right. They never die. They just keep on blossoming. So it's a beautiful thing. But, it's a really good point is, we learn from one another. We learn from everyone's perspective and everyone's point of view if we approach things with an open mind.
Right.
So it's when you're closed off and you're quick to judge and you shut something down before you give yourself that opportunity to kind of look at it and say, well, can I look at this from a different vantage point? Can I look at this from a different place? And that's how you learn and you grow, I think, is just by expanding your mind and looking at the world the way other people look at it. Because especially with social media today, that's one very positive thing I think about social media is so many people are sharing so many ideas and, perspectives. You can see one picture and have so many different people, seeing different things and feeling different things about it. And it's fascinating to me. And so I think before you shut somebody else's, judgment or opinion or view down, step back and look at it and see how it looks from where they're standing.
Yeah, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I was in a job interview when I first came back to Vegas. And one of the questions that the owner had asked me, it seemed kind of odd at the time. He was, how would you react in this situation? And it's basically, like you're walking down the street and somebody else comes running past you, knocks you over and then just gets up and keeps going. Doesn't even stop to say, I'm sorry, just keeps going. Like, how do you react? And I said, I don't have enough information. And, and he kind of stopped and he smiled. And it was like, well, I don't know what's happening in that person's personal life. Like maybe his wife's in the hospital and he needs to get somewhere really fast, doesn't have time to stop and check if I'm okay. Doesn't mean he's rude or any of the other things. I don't know what that situation is. And he's like, that's exactly what I was looking for. And even at that age, I just had that perspective.
That's
and it's
really
why
good.
I don't get the road rage or, I get frustrated, but I'm not going to just assume the worst in people. I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And if they act poorly, I don't really take it personally. I don't think it's about me. I want to think, that person is going through something in his or her life that I'm not aware of. And sometimes even with your closest friends, we don't know what's going on behind the surface. And if you have somebody that is normally acts one way and then suddenly maybe he or she snaps at you for no reason, maybe instead of getting all upset and starting a fight over it, give them a little bit of credit and think, I wonder what's going on. Like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out instead of automatically assigning negativity.
Right.
That's
absolutely. And making it about you.
Right. A lot of people make it about themselves.
Yeah. As opposed to being able to say, let me see what's going on with that other person and what's going on behind closed doors. On the same subject of judgment, how can being judgmental be, a positive, or using judgment be a positive? Can you think of any examples?
Well, I think about that. It's knowing yourself really well, to be able to use your own judgment to decide if something is right or wrong for you. Again, not for everybody, but just for you. As a business owner, you have to have that. You have to be able to take all the information and make decisions for yourself. And it can't always be what everybody else thinks. And that's, we've talked a lot about instinct and how that comes into play.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to make the different choice to set yourself apart. And it's easy to say, okay, well, this method is proven. So many people do things this way. This is a way that works. And everybody might tell you, but if your gut is saying, but I want to do things just a little bit different.
Yeah.
A lot of great things happen from thinking outside the box and not just going the safe route.
Yeah, because it's like if you always do everything the way that it's always been done, you're going to get the exact same result as everyone else. So having the courage to do things differently and using your own judgment and your own unique perspective on something to shape something the way you see it to work to be better, not only will benefit you, but it'll probably benefit a lot of other people. And it was just somebody having to take that risk or taking that chance. I know in my voiceover career, I've done a lot of things differently than was traditionally advised to do. And I feel like it served me very well throughout my voiceover career, making some of the unpopular decisions, going it alone early on in my career without any agents, for example. That was a big one for me, was building all my clients myself. And everyone was like, oh, well, you have to have an agent. Right. And I was like, why? And then because most people don't have the courage to go out and go after their own clients, it's scary because it's one of those things. It's really easy to sit in the safety and the comfort of your own home or your own mind and cast judgment on people who are building businesses and the way that they're going about doing it, the choice making that they're making. But you got to say, they're making decisions. They're doing it, and it's they're not just sitting at home thinking about it and daydreaming and pondering. They're going for it. And you know what? Maybe it's sloppy. Maybe it's getting ugly and they're making lots of mistakes, but at least they're out there doing it and they're finding their way through. I've definitely made mistakes along the way, but I've grown so much from the good decisions that I've made and the ones where I was like, well, that was not the best way to go, but hey, at least I did it. So judgment for me regarding business is, I do trust my gut. And I know we talk a lot about that in our podcast, but definitely I do trust my gut a lot, my instincts regarding people, regarding situations. I'll feel it in my body a certain way. And sometimes I'll say, I'm going to sleep on this for a day or two and just make sure that I'm not being emotional about it. Because sometimes if I'm in a bad mood or I'm hungry, or I know you don't know what that's all about. You're never hungry because you're always
I don't ever forget to eat, but
if I'm having, or maybe I'm just having a rough day where I'm really stressed and I'm trying to do too much. And then that's not a really good time for me to make a really good decision, to trust my judgment in that moment. I have the judgment within myself to say, hey, Melissa Moats, maybe just check yourself, wait a day or two, really think and feel through that and see how you're feeling tomorrow. Another thing about judgment is having a few really close confidants, people who know you really, really well, to sometimes bounce stuff off of, because we've all got a really hopefully we've all got a really tight, good circle of people we can trust. Maybe that's certain family members in your life. Maybe it's some of your working, peer friends. But it's important to have people, I think, that you really do trust if you're making a really big decision. To trust your gut, but then to bounce it off of them saying, you know me really well. You know where I'm usually coming from, and I'm thinking about this decision. What do you think? I personally have really made some great decisions with with good counsel, you know?
You sometimes need that other perspective because we get stuck in our heads, and we're very singularly focused because we feel the way that we feel.
Right.
So sometimes it's very helpful to get a fresh perspective on whatever it might be. Just to, like you said, to bounce ideas off of, see if it affirms what you're thinking, or maybe they bring up a point that you hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
I think that the judgment becomes important in relationships, whether they're business, client, vendors, personal, whatever that could be. A thing that has come up a lot in some of these, the entrepreneurs that I work with, is when do I end a relationship with a client? It's like maybe it's somebody that was hired on retainer, and, so they're providing these services and they're independent contractors, but the person who hired them thinks that they can micromanage and decide when these people are working. And it's like, that's not how freelance works. You don't get to decide. You can't just it doesn't mean that you own that person.
Right.
And a big part of my training with them is you have to set boundaries, even as specific as put your business hours in your contract, make them sign a contract. A lot of people aren't doing that, but it's to get the expectations managed and all of that. And if somebody that hires you doesn't trust you and is micromanaging, and every time the phone rings or you see that name pop up in your email, you get that cringe, let it go. It's not worth keeping that business that makes you feel that way. And I've had that, I've had bosses when that number showed up on my phone and it was just like, you have to take a deep breath and mentally prepare to answer it. I won't do it anymore. And sometimes that comes from, again, not placing judgment on the other person, but just deciding, this working relationship is not the right fit for me, or I'm not the right fit for you. You can end it respectfully and professionally, but it's knowing yourself and how you want your business to go. And sometimes different people, it just doesn't align. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're bad business owners. It's just different. Yeah. And it's okay to
You can end a relationship cleanly. And I always call it, just bless and release. It's like, it's like wish them all good things and release them. And it's just not a good fit for you. And I know for me, some of my bad judgment calls along the way, some of the things that I've, misjudged, or maybe I've misjudged people. I thought that they were going to work really well on my team, or, I thought that they would be a good person to collaborate with on a creative project. And for whatever reason, I've learned that I was incorrect in my judgment.
Oh, I've been there.
Right?
We know I've been there.
It's hard sometimes to really look at it. Because you build a relationship with people sometimes, and you start to feel like a closeness with them, and you have to look at it and say, okay, when you're going to make a decision that they're not the person to be working with, you have to set your feelings aside sometimes and just go, ooh, it's hard. It's really hard to do, but you have to put your feelings aside and go, okay, this is not working, and this is why this isn't working. And again, it doesn't have to be ugly or negative or drawn out. It can be very clean, but you can just let that person know that it's just not working, and wish them the best and hope that they receive it in that same way. So, but
you're not saying like, oh, you're a bad person, I don't want to work with you. You're just saying, this isn't working. This might not be the right fit.
Right. Those are really good words to use too, is just, this isn't, I'm finding that this isn't a good fit for us, or this isn't working. It's not you, it's me. Right. No, I'm just kidding.
But sometimes priorities change.
Yeah. And
sometimes somebody, that you, and it's always interesting when you think somebody because you're friends, but knowing somebody's personality and then also knowing their working style sometimes
Very
can
different.
Be completely different. And I've done that before where, I've hired somebody who is a friend and it turned out to be a disaster. And I just thought, nope, not doing that again.
Yeah.
Oh, again, sounded really funny. I know.
I don't know. You went somewhere. Some dialect came through that was very interesting.
Some of my inner ancestors were coming out to say hello.
It was an undefined.
It's from the way back.
I love it. No, go ahead. I was.
But it's just that thing. It's sometimes you're surprised in a good way and sometimes you're surprised in a bad way.
Yeah.
And, it's important. I think sometimes you give people a chance. But even, I think to personal relationships, and I always get really nervous when people say like, oh, I'm getting married and they've never lived together before. Because I don't think you really know what you're getting into
Until you live with
until
somebody.
you cohabitate. Like it's,
Yeah.
you get to know those daily habits, and maybe somebody's messy and, maybe they're making the effort when you're not there all the time, and then suddenly they're like, it's a person who leaves cabinets open all the time or doesn't turn off light, little things.
Yeah.
Sometimes big things though. And I think, that happens in business too, that suddenly now you're working every day with somebody, or maybe not every day, but a lot more regularly.
Yeah.
And you get to find out what's kind of behind the curtain.
Well, for me, on the topic of working with friends and this whole judgment thing is, sometimes this was one of my big surprises as a business owner. There have been times that I've worked with friends and it's been great. And there have been other times, because this was my thought, well, man, if I'm going to be working with this person and they're a really good friend, they're going to have my back and they're going to work so much harder for me, with me, on my team than anyone else, because they're my friend and they genuinely care about me.
And
right?
then did you find out it was the complete opposite and they took advantage of the fact that you were their friend?
Because there's that other school of thought that someone's like, well, that person's my friend, so of course they're not going to want me to work as hard as if we were working if I was working for someone else.
That's just Melissa.
So,
That's
right,
fine.
Melissa's so nice. Yeah. She's easygoing. Melissa's nice, but
Melissa knows how to put her foot down. Like, don't let the the niceness fool you. She is a very smart and astute business owner.
Thank you.
And you are very kind.
Thank you.
When you have to make that decision, you do it in a way that's very respectful and professional.
Thank you. I do my best. And I mean, I've learned along the way. I've grown. I do my father, my dad, he's a business owner, and I really look up to him a lot, not only as my dad, but as a mentor. And I go to him often for, business pointers and advice and different situations that pop up. But one big one for me regarding judgment is a lot of people misjudge me because they think because I'm nice and because I'm kind that I must be weak.
Yeah. Oh, you're definitely a pushover because you can't be nice and firm about how you want your business to run.
Right.
It's so silly to me.
You can be very nice. You can be very kind.
Those things are not mutually exclusive.
But you can also be very strong, and you can be very clear on where you're driving where your bus is headed.
Where your bus is headed.
Yeah, it's a VW bus. It's I want to get a VW bus, by the way, when they come out. They're coming out with an electric.
toasters?
They're coming out with an electric version, an electric bus. I want to get a lime green one.
Of course.
I do.
Of course you need a lime green VW
I want a
electric
lime
bus.
green VW electric bus. And I am driving that bus.
Yeah, you are.
Like a boss, let me tell you what. And I'm going to be wearing some, I can already see myself with a shirt with a big peace sign on it with pink flowers. And, I'm going to have those little cute John Lennon glasses. And I'm going to be like, hey, Amanda McEwen, let's take the Womanpreneur podcast on the road.
It is the 50th anniversary of Woodstock this year. So I think you're channeling your inner hippie right now.
Perfect timing. Don't judge me.
Right.
Just
Yep. I love that
that makes me happy.
As it should. I can absolutely see that happening. And I would like to be a passenger in that van.
I know.
A bus. Sorry. Not a van.
It's not a van, it's a bus.
That's very important.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But where I was headed was don't, not that you do this, but just for our viewers, for our listeners, I think it's important to remember that the people you interact with who are kind and who are nice aren't necessarily going to be a pushover. And I bet you there are listeners right now shaking their head and saying, yep, I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. And, we'd love to hear, your journey. What are things that maybe you've been in, what am I trying to say? What are situations you've been in before where maybe you feel like you were misjudged or you misjudged a situation or a person, and what did you learn from it? How did you grow? Because that's what happens when you misjudge or, you are on the receiving end of that, hopefully growth happens.
I hope so. And again, it's, why I think being open-minded is so important, and not assigning judgments to people who didn't earn it, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times we're burned by one person, and then it's easy to assume that now everybody's going to do that.
You put it all in like one
Right.
category.
Your boyfriend cheated on you, so all men are cheaters, and you and it's hard. When something bad happens to you, you carry that with you. It's very hard to release that and not be a little more closed off, or a little more, I better be careful about this. But I think it's really important to understand that that person did not do that thing to you.
Right.
That was one specific person. And maybe it opens you up to signs, to red flags. Maybe you start, you become more observant and more aware.
Learn from it.
Exactly. But don't hold other people accountable for what somebody else did.
Right.
That's otherwise you're never going to trust anybody. You're never going to get all the goodness that people have because you're looking. And I think when you search, you have it in your head that this is going to happen to you. You create that because you look for it. And then
if you seek, you will find it.
Exactly. So instead, just be open-minded and give people the benefit of the doubt and think, you know what? This person is brand new in my life. I am good. They start with a clean slate. They might have a past to me. And I'm one of those people. I don't think your past defines who you are today. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to know your journey and how you got to be where you are. But I don't think that something that you did in your early 20s, and if you're 40 now, it's all part of shaping you. But I want to know who you are today. That's the version of you that I get to know.
Yeah.
So I want to know how that everything else shaped you. But there's mistakes there. There's flaws there in everybody.
Yeah.
And so I would rather get to know who you are now, and that's your clean slate. Show me who you are today. That's what I'm interested in.
Absolutely. And hopefully every day we're becoming a little bit stronger and better version of who we were yesterday.
We hope so.
That's always my goal. Every day when I wake up, I just want another chance to do it right, to do it better.
When the little cartoon birds are chirping around your room, I feel like you wake up and then the bird. I see a Disney scene.
It's pretty much what happens.
Squirrels are opening the curtains, and
it's so weird. It's like you've been to my house. It's like hearts start coming out of my body, like little cartoon hearts, and
with the exception that you have told me that you're crabby in the morning because you haven't had coffee yet.
This all starts happening with my first sip,
right? And then the animals come out and.
There's a great meme I found. Well, people send me great coffee memes all the time, and I love them all so much. But there was one about, it was like this cute little monkey, and he has this expression on his face, and he's drinking his first sip of coffee, and it's like, the way I feel when the first drop of coffee hits my soul. And I was like, yes, I can relate. It's such a good feeling. But
whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever works. I think that's
I don't share in the coffee, but right? I don't judge you for your love of it.
I know, and I brought you your weird green tea with your weird powder in it today.
You did,
and I didn't judge you, even though I said it's weird. It's just mysterious to me.
Green. It's fun.
I texted Amanda on my way in, and I'm like, hey, girl, I'm stopping at Starbucks. Do you want me to get you your weird tea with your weird powder? And weird magic powder.
And I had to let you in on the secret of how to order it. And I hopefully it hasn't lost any of its luster.
No, it felt still very, it was my first time ordering tea. So it was weird.
I'm glad you don't judge me for my green drink.
I know, it makes me love you more. It makes me love you more because you do Amanda McEwen things.
Yeah, So, you do you, I do me.
Isn't it ironic, the card that I gave you today too? About judgment today and
She gave me a card to thank me for my weirdness, or our weirdness, our mutual weirdness. But see, that's the kind of thing that Melissa Mopes does. She just sees a card and she's like, I'm going to give you a card and say, I'm glad that we're opposites.
Yeah.
Who else gets a card saying thank you for being my counterpart?
Yeah. I said to her today in the little card I wrote her, I said, we couldn't be more different. And I love the magic of our friendship because of it. So I think if you can embrace the differences and just love everybody for who they are and embrace them wholly as they are, even with the things that you think are quote unquote faults, they're not faults. Everybody's just perfectly awesome in who they are. Just love them for who they are.
I personally love surrounding myself with people who are nothing like me, because some of my favorite people in the world are people who have no filter. The people that just say whatever they want to say with no regard, like no care in the world.
I'm amazed by people like that.
I love being around those people. And I had one of my friends who his entire friend group is like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you even hang out with us? It's like, because this is so much fun. And a lot of times I just sit back and observe and I'm like, oh, these people are so great because they just don't care.
I know.
Or if they do care, they don't show it outwardly. And I love that, because I am quiet and I don't speak up much and I'm very reserved. So, you can't really put two quiet and reserved people in a room together, because then they just sit and stare at each other.
Right. It'd be a staring contest.
What happens is if I'm in a room with that person, then I have to overly compensate and my social side comes out. And then by the end of that meeting, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So, but I can make it work when I need to.
Absolutely.
So,
embrace the differences, everybody. And when you find yourself judging someone else, flex a new muscle, try a new exercise where you stop and you try to look at it from their point of view and ask yourself why. Where are they coming from? And
just remember, it's probably not about you.
Right. Yeah. And don't make it about you.
Right. Yeah.
That's I think a big takeaway from today. So it ain't about you, even though we love you.
Yes, we do.
Just some food for thought. Thanks for watching and listening, and put some love out there today. I'm going to high five myself because I know Amanda won't high five me. That was a solid one. I'm just going to sit here in my perfect shirt.
Enjoy.
Thanks for tuning into the Womanpreneur podcast. Until next time, you've got this.